bit about COVID-19 and the impact it's having on us. I know for myself, I mean, we're both therapists. We see people all the time. And I think you're seeing face-to-face and I'm seeing face-to-face, as well as online.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a good mix between, a good mix for us as therapists at the moment, with the combination of a lot of online work, and then also some people that just need the face-to-face. They're just not online people in terms of their therapy.
Or that you find that they are so desperate for contact that they say, I actually want to come in.
Absolutely. I find that with the adolescents, especially in the little bit of the earlier stages of the harder lockdown, they could convince their parents that they wanted to go to the therapist. And because it's quite safe and we also do all the measures. So I had more than one adolescent tell me, you're the first person that I'm seeing outside of my house for 4 or 5 weeks. Because of course the adolescent doesn't go shopping or so. And just that relief to actually see someone and go somewhere.
Yes, and I think that links in what I'm getting a lot of at the moment is this lockdown fatigue. I said to someone yesterday, in the last, I suppose, 2 weeks, I've not seen a person who has not broken the regulations.
Absolutely.
It's automatic, they're all doing it at the moment. And I sort of get it, and it's very difficult because with some people, I almost have the sense of if they don't see people, we're going to have far more serious emotional problems. And actually seeing the occasional friend is saving them from serious problems.
Yes. Yes, I agree. I think it's such a difficult thing. So I also referred to, when we spoke earlier, I referred to old Bruce Whitfield on the Money Show, referring to public resentment of the regulations, and the talk made such a lot of sense. But psychologically speaking, I think also in a way, if people just follow the regulations totally blindly, they are putting all their psychological resources in the external locus of control, and that psychologically maybe that's not totally healthy. And some people, if they are making up their own minds, but responsibly so, to do one small thing that might take them towards a better emotional health, or just give them a bit of a boost. It's more an inner decision which might not psychologically be too wrong.
Yep. Although it could give other problems in terms of this pandemic.
It could. It could, of course it could. So it's not to be at all to be condoned. But it puts people in that like decision. I think there's a lot of decision fatigue as well, because these are decisions that you have to. Sorry, Elaine?
No, I say there's a huge amount, because all these sort of habitual patterns have been broken. So whereas you would do things habitually without giving it thought, it is just a way to do things. Now one has to actually think about every action.
Absolutely.
And I've had a lot of people say to me, I'm less productive but more tired.
Yes.
Have you also
had
absolutely
it? Totally. That's all the time. That's a very important theme. To me as well personally, I've gone through phases where I've felt like really strongly like that. Of course, then it sometimes lifts a bit and it tilts to the other side again. But I think what is very important that you said is that we are usually inside of our default networks in our thinking and in our habits. And the lockdown has, of course, broken all our default networks.
Yep.
So it takes more energy, maybe on that level.
Yes, I think it does. I mean, almost compare it to if you had to study new material and you work at it for an hour or two, you're quite tired afterwards. And it's almost the same sort of sensation. That,
Yes.
yeah, and it's all those new networks that are having to be created.
Yes, I think so. And then that's, of course, within the context of the anxiety, of the danger and the threat, which is also exhausting. Yeah, of course, also the new, the networks that you're referring to in the new material, comparing it to building a new kind of scaffolding in your mind. That's very tiresome, but it can also have some benefits. So some people would also refer to stuff that they've actually discovered about themselves or their habits or their lifestyle that is quite, energy giving or invigorating or helpful because they're not just doing the default networks. Have you also found that?
I've had a number of people, but it seems to be changing. So I've had people who struggled enormously in the beginning, but are somehow managing now and managing better.
Yes.
And I've had the alternative where I've had people in the beginning saying, this suits me. I don't like going to the office. I want to be at home. I hate seeing people. This is wonderful. And they're now reaching a point where this is now not fun anymore. I've reached the end of my tolerance levels.
Exactly. I found that a lot with, again, the adolescents, those that are introverts. In the beginning, yes. In the beginning, and still now, they would say, Tannie Christa, hierdie pas my eintlik, want ek is so lekker introvert. And it's usually also these very intelligent children that can work on their own and like their own pace, and so they feel that there's a big benefit with their own pace.
Yes.
But then, they are starting to need that social interaction, even if it's only within their introversy.
Yes,
And
I've had the same.
Really?
Yep. The other thing that's been quite interesting and links with the positivity you mentioned, and I don't know if you've seen it, I've seen it now with a number of people, and maybe a little broader in society, that there's more creativity developing.
Definitely.
To cope with these things, that people are becoming maybe a little bit more creative in how they're doing it. For instance, the one or two restaurants that have decided, let's establish old-fashioned roadhouses so that we can continue to serve food. And I've seen it in individuals where suddenly they're finding ways to do things which they wouldn't have done prior to this. So that's been a positive thing coming out of it.
Of course, and also just, all the things that people are doing. I find that my clients report that, the online experience have some benefits and some, problems to it. But people also online get extremely creative. The adolescents are doing all sorts of surveys for themselves.
That is lovely.
Yes, and so that's very interesting. Also, like a group of adolescents that just when the lockdown was going to start, they all shaved their hairs off, their hair, and so this is just process, and that hair is getting long now.
Oh yes,
or longer.
Yes,
and they're sharing that with each other.
Yeah. Nice, actually nice things.
Well, I think we have to tap into these things to keep us going. We don't want to deny that it's from a mental health perspective, it's a humongous challenge.
Yeah.
And we don't want to deny that, but I think it's very true that there's also some resources and resilience developing. I think it's just maybe, if I can just say for myself, it's just something that's not a linear process.
No.
Where you feel like, first I'm overwhelmed and then I develop resilience and there I go. Because in the beginning, that's kind of what I thought it would be
happen.
like for me. Yeah, and you know, it isn't. It's a cyclical process, and I find like each day I kind of check things that today these things have been working well for me, and today I've been quite upset about these things or felt
Yes,
overwhelmed. So
yes,
it's kind of a daily mix, if I can put it that way.
yes, I'd agree with you. I mean, some things are exhausting on a daily basis.
Yes.
The never-ending checking, the never-ending putting on masks. I find myself suddenly leaving the office and they're like, oh, I forgot the mask again. That sort of thing. But there are other things that have been better. And some days are easier than others.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
Yes, I think, you know, some of the clients would also, you know, maybe get out of the car and forget the mask. It's just so unnatural. But then, you know, we also find ourselves sometimes to forget to take it off.
yes,
Um,
yes.
mm,
Yeah, it's actually
mm,
quite interesting. But I think the thing that I'm finding in some ways the most challenging, not too much with myself, a little bit, I think my powers of denial are quite well developed, but with especially with clients have been has been the anxiety around this.
mm, mm.
Because to some level there's a realistic level of anxiety,
Of
but I
course.
often find that I'm seeing people who are not particularly realistic in their anxiety, and finding
Mm.
a balance from what is appropriate, what is okay, and sort of matches levels of threat, and where are we dealing with anxiety that is way beyond what the levels of threat in actual fact are.
Yes, I hear what you're saying. So, have you had a lot of catastrophizing?
Lots and lots and lots. The people who really, and I mean it quite literally, I wouldn't do it because, as I say, I have well developed powers of denial, but that people will leave groceries in the garage for 4 days
Mm,
for the
mm,
virus to die if it's on there. Every product
mm,
gets wiped down with swabs or whatever that, well, some other cloth or something. Now, I wouldn't do
mm,
it. My attitude
mm,
is, chances I'll be fine.
mm,
Um,
mm,
or people who, since the beginning, have not been out of their houses at all,
mm.
and they don't have serious underlying conditions, but they
So
cannot
then,
go for a walk.
mm,
And that sort of thing is quite difficult because as soon
yes,
as you go on that route of, but what if this happens, or it could happen, there's no way to give the guarantee it's not going to happen, but they've got very low tolerance for uncertainty.
mm, mm,
And that's very, very hard to actually develop at this stage. At least
mm.
I'm finding it quite tough going.
Yes, of course. So I agree with you. I mean, if the catastrophizing thoughts are um, preventing um, someone from, you know, consistently preventing
Yes.
someone from doing something that is actually healthy and helpful, um,
With
and in
very
line
low
with,
risk.
yes, then that starts to be a behavior that's definitely, um, you know, definitely not helpful at all.
Yes.
Mm. I've also experienced like some of the adolescents, especially the high function. Well, everybody really, but specifically the very high functioning adolescents. They kind of also catastrophize about now my whole year and all my dreams are now totally
Destroyed.
changed. Yes, destroyed.
Yeah.
Uh,
No future.
and yes. Yeah, but that's a bit of a different subject
Yes.
from the anxiety that you are
Yes.
referring to, because I think that's the most prominent thing that all of us are facing, the uncertainty,
Yes.
especially. So I wonder how we can picture a realistic certainty of even just something that's realistic and that can be certain for me, in a week's time and in 2 weeks' time. Do you think that will be helpful for people to kind of have a picture or visualization of some kind of daily routine that would be safe and
More
certain?
helpful. I don't know if people manage it that well at this stage. It takes quite a lot of talking and discussion to get someone to say something like, all right, I'll give it a go. I will go for a walk around my own house outside. And the anxiety that goes along with it is excessive. That I'll go for the walk, but when I come back in, I have to take a shower and wash all my clothes. And what I've been doing so far is negotiating. Can we leave one of those things? And try and do the walk and maybe don't do this. And don't do this.
So just one small thing to start doing or to stop doing.
Yes.
In order to manage the anxiety. And then, of course, I think also, I don't know if you agree with this, but what we know about anxiety is that it doesn't necessarily go away. It's more about managing it while you're stepping into what you want to do.
But the problem is you play along with anxiety, it obviously worsens the whole problem.
Of course.
Every time I adjust my behavior to my anxiety levels, I feel some relief. That rewards the avoidance further, and the anxiety just gets worse.
That's typical. That is like anxiety on steroids. It's just the way it is. It brings a short-term relief when I give in to my anxiety, if I can put it that way. That sounds maybe a bit.
That's exactly what happens.
Yeah. And then I avoid. I feel so relieved. We all know what that feels like.
Yes.
And then, but in the end, it's kind of boycotting me.
Because the anxiety escalates.
Do what's important. So it's yes, absolutely. So are you seeing that happening in front of your eyes in your office with your clients?
Yep. Oh, online with these, because they struggle to actually come in.
So it's all about that. I was also jokingly, but maybe also seriously referring to that a bit earlier, but I don't know exactly how I broke that pattern, but I was joking with myself and telling my friends on WhatsApp and on Zoom that I think if I'm not careful, I'm going to develop agoraphobia or a phobia. But yeah. So this is like, as you say, people don't, the staying in initially was like really hard because it was so restrictive, and then later the anxiety gets so much that staying in is maybe preferred.
It's quite hard to manage it because these are people who would like to be different. Yes. And they very often realize that what they're doing is not normal.
Yes.
But it's things like illness, anxiety, and things like that that really come into it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just such a vicious circle because, as you say, we realize what our unhelpful behaviors are, but it's so hard to get unstuck. And we need something to guide us in order to get unstuck on that route. And it's not always so easy now because I think all our usual coping mechanisms are, it's just not, mostly not there. And usually I'd go to yoga if I feel very stressed and tired.
But you can do that now.
Yeah, I'll go to art class or I'll meet you for a cup of coffee.
Yes.
All of those things.
And now we can't. Yeah, no, what I've been doing with people like this is negotiating that they go for a walk outside their house, even if it's brief, that they start bit by bit leaving behaviors, testing it. And I've been encouraging them because that works reasonably well with some people. It also helps a bit for the fatigue, is that they go to outside places. For example, I can't tolerate being inside anymore, blah, 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 but I'm anxious. Now what do I do? All right, at least now the nature reserves are opening. Bit of a schlep to get in, but that is now an option.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that helps a lot. Places like nurseries are open. And you know, if we go through it logically and bit by bit, the risk is very low because it's easy to socially distance in these places.
Absolutely.
Really not hard to go to the second nursery, to walk around the place. The chances are you're not going to come within 5-10 meters of another person.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, that's extremely low risk to look that frank fact in the eyes and be realistic. And it's worth a while, mentally speaking, because it's a humongous step towards health to actually go and do that. We also know, remember in that we spoke about this in one of our addresses to other groups, about the thing of Viktor Frankl during his time in the concentration camp, just being able to notice a natural thing like the sunset or the sun, you know, the dawn. It's so we want to, that is, if we really do that intentionally, I think that's an action that's very anxiety, you know, controlling, if I can put it that way.
Too. People tend to calm down when they're outside in nature. It also is quite useful with depression. I don't know if you remember, it was quite interesting. Remember Milton Erickson, the hypnotist? Hypnotherapist, yes. One of his tricks was with depressed patients to tell them to garden.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Because once you're dealing with nature, once you're dealing with growth, it actually works against feeling bad.
Absolutely. And also, I very much support and the idea, and also because I've experienced it myself, just the fact that the movement, physical movement and psychological flexibility, I do believe those go along. And I think also maybe with the more recent kind of mindfulness drive, and mindfulness and gardening would be absolutely a prime example of course, it depends on how you garden, but it will be more conducive to some mindfulness. And that will definitely be of assistance.
Yes. And by that you mean basically being focused.
Yes, by intentionally noticing the small experiences that you are having, like, so mindfulness would be to be intentionally aware of your outside surroundings as well as what shows up inside of you, and to be aware of that inside and outside environment, but in a non-judgmental way, to view it with soft eyes and be patient. Some of the literature refers to viewing yourself, your insides, and the environment with beginner's eyes, as if you're seeing this plant or this soil or rock, tree bark, maybe for the first time ever in your life.
And that's useful because the internal stuff is noticing what you're experiencing without judgment.
Absolutely. Yes. It's a hard thing to practice and an easy thing to talk about, of course. But it also goes to the small things. So often we think in this crisis and with all our anxiety, we have to do one big thing to make an input or to change things for ourselves. But it's more often, I don't know if it's your experience as well, but it's more often for our clients and for ourselves, as you say, just that one thing that you want to encourage a client to change, just one small thing at a time.
Yes, yes.
Mm.
I think we've come up with some useful things.
Yes, I think so too. I just wanted, can I add one more thing though? Because, so the group of people that we spoke to previously, they let us know that they want to also just think about examples of what would a power list look like. Now, you remember we referred to a power list, and I think it's relevant to what we just said now.
Yes.
Those small, that's why I'm thinking of it. So to just, because being traumatized and anxious it goes to feeling disempowered.
Yes.
And we want to just notice the small powers that we are experiencing during the day, like watering a plant, or just noticing the sunlight.
Correct.
Yes. Do you think that would count as to go onto a power list?
I think so, because for many people, we don't notice these things.
Yes.
And if I've learned the skill of actually noticing something where I didn't notice it. It's
I agree, because
very useful skill to develop.
Yes.
To be more present in my world.
Yes, absolutely. With my anxiety, because obviously if I'm noticing my, inner landscape, then I'll notice that I'm anxious. So we don't want to judge that or, engage in a big judgmental war against it. But we do want to change behaviors, though. That's not helpful.
These are skills. They're things we learn to do.
Sorry, I just had to
yes,
quickly.
Nice.